Hello, Gen Genies. It's me, Julie.
And Rich.
Before we get started today, we want to let you in on some exciting news. We have launched our new Patreon page for the podcast.
Woohoo! We are super excited about this new chapter for CutOff Jeans.
So, Patreon is a website where listeners like you can pledge a small monthly amount. We're talking only $5 or $10, guys, to support the podcast and help defray the costs of bringing you the show each week.
To be clear, CutOff Jeans will continue to be absolutely free. But to thank you for your support, we are going to offer our patrons some fun little extras.
Like early access to the podcast every week, where you'll get to hear the latest episode before it's released to the general public.
And why not make your friends jealous with exclusive patron-only CutOff Jeans swag?
Fancy. And here's something you guys have been asking for, and I'm really looking forward to this. I'm going to host a monthly, hour-long, online Ask Me Anything session where patrons at the $10 level can literally ask me anything.
Anything? You're a brave woman, Julie.
You know, I know. I'm also going to give access to my blog, Are You My Father?, where I tell the story of my search, actually it's my life story basically, for my biological father in even more detail than I did on the podcast.
Wow, your blog was the original inspiration for CutOff Jeans, wasn't it?
It was.
Wow. Well, all patrons at any level will receive a shout-out on the podcast along with our undying gratitude for your support.
Yep. You guys know that this show is a labor of love for me. It's something I'm very passionate about. It'd mean so much to me if you would consider supporting our work here on the podcast by going to patreon.com/CutOff Jeans podcast.
That's Patreon, patreon.com/CutOff Jeans podcast.
We'll add a link to it on the podcast and on the Facebook page. Thank you all, my Gen Genies.
And now, on with the show.
Woo!
Is your family tree a mystery? Are you fascinated by genealogy? Well, hip, hip, hooray, let's talk DNA with Julie.
The truth is in your genes.
In CutOff Jeans.
Welcome to CutOff Jeans, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, and I'm a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
And I am Richard Castle, the co-host and producer of this podcast. Happy New Year, Julie.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, folks.
Yay, we're back.
I know. I feel like we haven't done this in forever, and it's only been a few weeks.
We really haven't, but it's basically been the entire month of December.
It isn't, though, because when the holidays feel like a whole year to me,
Yeah.
Because you've got them all, just all the preparation leading up and then the dates. And I know. I'm exhausted. I need like a vacation from it.
I am too. I'm completely exhausted. And I was exhausted before it. I remember the day after Christmas literally being so relieved it was the day after Christmas. That's bad. Is that bad?
No, I think it's natural. I mean, it's almost like postpartum depression or something. You get so used. There's so much to do before the holidays that when it's all over, it's sort of like not just a relief, but just a now what?
Well, now, of course, I have to take down the decorations and pick up all the wrapping paper off the living room floor.
And if you haven't done that yet,
I have.
Okay, good.
I've done. And I took down the decorations the day after New Year's, so I was really good.
Good for you.
Well, I put them up extremely late this year, and I did it really half-assed. I have to be honest. I did not bring the ladder out into the front yard. I usually do. So imagine, if you will, I just kind of haphazardly hung the lights on the fence and in the trees and put a few balls on the lower branches.
So what did you do? Just unplug it and then just pull the lights and it was like
Pretty
one big
much,
string?
yeah. I didn't even normally I attach them to the fence with zip ties so that it's all, very,
Yes.
but I just, what? I literally, it's like I was a toddler just throwing things and hope they stuck.
Well, I put out so much stuff for Christmas, all around the house.
Tchotchkes.
Yeah, little tchotchkes and things that people give you over the years and whatever. And so that I end up finding them in, June. I still find oh gosh, there's this one little piece I forgot. Or I had a Christmas plate, that was in the drawer or something. I'm like, oh, forgot to put that away.
Yeah. We have about a 3-foot tall wooden nutcracker that we got at a white elephant a few years ago. And my husband loves that thing. And the first year we forgot to put it away, or I'm the one who puts it away, guys. But I missed it.
How do you miss a 3-foot tall nutcracker?
It just kind of blends in, apparently. then I kept going to my husband saying, hey, will you put this in storage, please? And he wouldn't do it. So then I just started putting it in random places around the house. And
like in bed next to him.
Exactly. No, I put it in his bed, on his side of the bed under the covers so that it would be there. Then he put it in my shower with a wash rag in its mouth because I chew the wash rag.
I'm trying to decide if this is like fun play between a couple or really passive aggressive.
It's both, really. Yeah. But we like to find weird things and put them in weird places.
But like putting the nutcracker in the bed is sort of like very Don Corleone. It's very Godfather, where he puts the horse head in the bed.
It was fun. I enjoyed it.
I made him a nutcracker he couldn't refuse. It's a really bad Italian accent, right?
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
So my favorite thing is on New Year's Day. I get up in the morning and I watch the Rose Parade because, I love it. It's so much fun. And I just make cinnamon rolls and like lay there with coffee. And I usually watch it on delay because I'm not up early enough on New Year's Day.
Do you watch the whole parade?
Pretty much, yeah.
It's so boring to me.
Really?
I'm so sorry. That's very un-American of me.
Oh no, I enjoy it. It's fun. I used to watch it even back east when I was a kid. I remember watching that. And I'm up late on New Year's Eve because I'm a musician and I always play, and so I don't get home until very, very late. And so, but I get up and watch it on delay, and then I go to a party. There's a friend of mine that has a party every year. And it's like an open house. And it's very, how should I put this? Very Hollywood, But Hollywood, not today's Hollywood, but Hollywood of like the 70s and 80s.
Hollywood.
Yes. This
Hollywood of our youth.
So this is the party, and I know I've mentioned this on the podcast before, where I met the actress Dawn Wells, who played Mary Ann.
And she told you a great story.
Yeah. And so at this party, there's this woman across the way, and I'm looking at her, and she's got, oh God, she looks familiar. I'm like, oh, is she somebody I know, or is she just everybody has a look in LA? And then I realize that she was in Three's Company, the TV show.
Was it Suzanne Summers?
No, she wasn't. She was like one of Jack's girlfriends, but I remembered her from that. She actually played Greedy Gretchen. Which is really...
That is so disgusting.
It's very tone deaf today, but at the time it was acceptable, and it was funny when Jack Ritter did it.
The thing is, she didn't call herself Greedy Gretchen.
No,
that was her nickname behind her back.
Yeah, her name was Gretchen, and they would go, "Ooh, Gretchen, Greedy Gretchen." Yeah. Interestingly enough, I also like a week before was in the Starbucks and saw this woman, and I'm like, God, she looks familiar too. And
Morgan Fairchild.
No, I looked her up.
I see her all the time.
And she was also one of Jack's girlfriends on Three's Company, and she played Brenda, the human blender.
I think it should be Brenda, the human blender.
Well, I think that's how they said it.
Sure. Wow.
So anyway, this actress name, her name, I introduced myself to her. I didn't tell her I knew who she was or whatever, but her name was Teresa, and I can't remember her last name.
Teresa Ganzel?
Yes, that's it. Yes. How do you know that?
I too have bumped into her in the neighborhood.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a coincidence.
I was in Marshall's a couple years ago, and we were both trying on the same dress. And we were basically critiquing each other, not critiquing, but saying, "Oh, it looks great on you, but that looks great on you." Of course, it looked much better on her because she's 6 feet tall and she has
tall.
legs for days. And then there's me. I'm a fire hydrant, and but yeah, I recognized her from Johnny Carson in the 80s.
Really?
Yes, she was like one of those, like she was in a lot of the sketches they did. They're little.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know. See, here I am thinking, oh, that's Greedy Gretchen. But no, she's actually did more than that. Yeah,
I mean, she was at the time. She was kind of the go-to bombshell for.
I see.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I will say that she looked terrific, and she's
very nice.
She was so
charming.
nice, and she had a great voice. Like her voice was like a little girl voice.
Like this. She's a real live Audrey from Little Shop.
She is like Audrey from Little Shop. Not Audrey 2, that's the plant.
She's a real life plant. I am Audrey too.
No, you're not.
Because I'm a plant and a fire hydrant. I'm a plant growing out of a fire hydrant.
So what character would I be? Probably Mr. Mushnick.
No, you'd be the dentist.
Would I? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wait, have we decided that she is Audrey, you are the dentist, and I am the plant?
Somehow, that's what's come up.
Wow.
Yeah.
That took a disappointing turn.
It really did.
I brought it on myself.
I guess my dog is Seymour. Buddy, you're Seymour.
Oh, suddenly, buddy.
He's wagging his tail because he's waiting for some chicken. So what did you get for Christmas, Julie?
I got the first 5 things on my Amazon wish list.
Oh.
That's the way to do it, really.
I've never done that.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
You know what? I'm very difficult to buy for. In fact, everyone's very difficult to buy for.
Yeah.
So if I can show them exactly what I want so that I don't have to exchange it for what I want, then I'll do that. Though there was a little extra bonus that my husband guessed at.
What is it?
So did I tell you about my Advent cooking extravaganza of December?
I'm not sure.
All right. I found a YouTube video that was 31 one-pot recipes, and it's like the live, like it shows you making them, has a camera above the frying pan. And
okay.
And I'm obsessed with them because they were somehow soothing to me. So I saw this, and it looked so great and so easy that I decided to follow it in order. A new recipe every day, a one-pot recipe.
My Advent recipe calendar is calling a different restaurant each night for takeout.
Well, yeah, we did that too. This was, it lasted 11 days, by the way. And I did quite well. And most of them were really good recipes. I'm going to pick it back up again. But because that, my husband decided that maybe I wanted an Instapot.
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what an Instapot is? It's the contemporary version of a pressure cooker.
I thought it was the name of the pot shop around the corner.
Instapot. Well, they're all Instapots. So an Instapot is kind of a newly branded contemporary version of a pressure cooker, kind of.
It's not like a crock pot?
No, it's more of a pressure cooker because you can cook things much faster in it, apparently. I have not cracked it open yet, guys.
Here's the thing. Anytime I'm in the kitchen cooking something, it's a lot of pressure. So I don't need an Instapot. Because I'm not a cook.
My husband is starting to think that it was a mistake because I got him an air fryer, which is really what I wanted.
Glad that you both got kitchen stuff.
Well, here's what's funny about that. My husband's motto is all bits must be done. Yeah. And so if there's a joke to be said, he will say it or do it. So he got me the Instapot. And of course, the whole thing is about, what, you got your wife something to cook, or you got your wife, one year I got a vacuum cleaner and he got so much crap, but I asked for it. So this year on the box, if you look on the outside of the box, he printed and cut out pictures of the Peloton lady.
Yes, I was just going to bring that up.
And put them all over the box.
I love that. She does look a little frightened.
She looks terrible. It's just that look in her
Although
eyes.
I will say, when I watched the commercial for the first time, I didn't get it. I didn't understand what the big problem was.
I'm like, why is she making a video? Yeah. You know, I would have been fine with it. It was in the end when they're watching it together the next year.
Honestly, if they literally had just said, if she said when she got it, oh my God, you got it for me. I've wanted this for so long, or something like that, because then it would have been like, oh, she asked for it. Like you said, with the vacuum.
Yes.
But because it wasn't something that had been requested.
It was kind of like, hand.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then she's like looking in the camera and she looks absolutely terrified.
Yeah. And she's bone thin at the beginning, and it's a year later and she's still bone thin.
Yeah, she hasn't changed at all.
But wouldn't it have been worse if she had been fat?
Yeah, that would have been bad.
The next, and yeah.
Because it's about health, not being skinny.
Right. So now we've talked about what you got.
What did you get?
Well, you know what I got.
What'd you get?
So listen, guys. Julie got me an Ancestry DNA kit.
Finally.
Yes, you guys have been asking, like, when is he going to take one of these tests?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I finally bit the bullet and did it.
Yeah, and I've got it here, and I'm going to do it on the break.
Yeah, why don't you do it on the break, and then we'll tell everybody how it went after.
Sounds good. Shall we take the break? Because I'm itching to spit.
I bet you're hungry, too.
Well, I'm also really thirsty because I was told I can't have anything to drink.
Guys, don't have water before. Okay, let's take a break.
If you're enjoying our podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. Or consider supporting us on our Patreon page, patreon.com/CutOff Jeans Podcast. Now back to Julie and me. And we're back.
And we're back.
And I've got dry mouth, and I haven't been smoking anything.
Excellent spitting.
I've just spit into a tube.
Isn't it? It's much harder to get that much spit than you thought, isn't it?
I know, and I'm not really a spitter. Like, I'm not the kind of kid that went around spitting on the sidewalk. I just thought it was gross, so I never did.
I don't think that's a prerequisite.
Okay, good.
For being, actually being a spitter.
Oh, good. But what if my DNA results come back and it says, like, I'm 80% spitter?
You mean German?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know what that means.
But I do like how the instructions are so basic. There's literally 2 steps. Activate kit, gather DNA. That's it.
It's quite simple.
Simple is always better when it comes to these kind of things because
Tell me
whenever
about
there's more steps, I'm like, I get overwhelmed very easily. So
easily overwhelmed. That's my next T-shirt.
Oh, I like that.
It's true.
I will buy that T-shirt.
Will you?
Yeah. Oh, are you kidding?
Oh, maybe I should. I've been that is among the titles of my autobiography.
Easily overwhelmed.
Easily overwhelmed.
I like. What's another title?
I'm having a bad hair life, and of course, daddy. What is it? Daddy issues or something like that?
Yeah.
Because
But I have a feeling that they might have trouble classifying that on Amazon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Enough said.
Okay.
What's going on in the DNA news, Julie?
Well, actually, there's some big news. If you recall, I had a conversation with Paul Fronczak, who was the author of The Foundling. Just a quick callback to that. Paul wrote the book The Foundling because he, as a child, Paul Fronczak was kidnapped from the hospital when he was a few days old and in somebody dressed up as a nurse and never seen again or never seen for 2 years. And then all of a sudden they found our friend Paul Fronczak in Maryland or New Jersey and decided that he must be Paul Fronczak, the baby that was taken,
right.
And everybody decided that he was, and so he was raised by the Fronczaks.
Yes.
Well, a DNA test eventually proved that he was not indeed their child.
I remember that interview and his book.
Yeah,
and I haven't read the book, but what a fascinating story.
It's great.
Yeah.
So the book is about how he found out who he was, but his next goal was to find the real Paul Fronczak.
Yes.
So, and we've been waiting and waiting, and finally on December 20th, 2019, Paul has a page called, I think, "Who is Paul Fronczak?" something like that, or "Where is Paul Fronczak?" And so this is the message: "Hi everyone, it's Paul. We found the real Paul Fronczak more than a year ago." Yeah.
Wow.
In late 2018, but out of respect for his desire to remain anonymous and respect for his family, we did not go public with the story, nor will I go into detail about it now. I hope you understand my main mission from the start has been to reunite my mother, Dora, with the child who was taken from her so many years ago. I've always kept you informed of all my progress, and I've relied greatly on your help and support, and I will continue to rely on you all. But I know what it's like to have your life turned upside down overnight, and I feel this man and his family deserve their privacy. Thank you, and check back soon, Paul.
Wow.
So they found him.
Wow.
We don't know exactly how, obviously, yet, and they're giving his privacy, but it has been over a year.
I mean, I'm assuming it's through DNA.
It is through DNA, and a cousin somehow submitted their DNA, and that's I don't know.
So my question
story.
is then: so was Paul the Paul that you interviewed?
Mm-hmm.
He was stolen from a hospital.
No, he was.
He was not.
He was abandoned.
He was abandoned.
He was abandoned in
That's
a public
right.
place.
So, and this other guy was the real.
He was the one that was
who
stolen, and we don't know the story. And there's obviously either his mother was the one who dressed up as a nurse,
right.
or whoever dressed up as a nurse sold him to his family.
God,
or
that's just what a story, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm really surprised it hasn't been picked up as a movie yet.
The thought of that, like the fact that your mother might be your kidnapper.
Can you imagine?
The woman
That's
that raised
happened
you.
a few times.
Ugh.
Yeah. How do you
reconcile that?
Thank
yes.
you. Reconcile. That would be the big word I'm thinking.
Well,
of.
and now is he going to reconcile with his birth mother, from whom?
That's the goal, and he has not yet. He has not met her
Right.
yet. The father has passed away.
Mm-hmm.
But the goal is to end, but they have not met. So there's obviously a lot to wade through here, and a lot to process.
There'll be another book there.
Absolutely, yeah. But
Yeah.
it's and I love that he is being so protective
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a very delicate and as much as are desired because it's such a juicy story,
right.
There are real lives at stake here, or real people's emotions. And
yeah, it would be very easy to exploit the situation.
Definitely.
And so I like that he's being protected.
Yes.
Even though I want the dish.
Well, I think eventually it'll come out. Finding the foundling.
Finding the foundling.
Paul, you can use that if
Finding
you want.
foundlings. I like it. So that was the biggest story before Christmas. Okay, anyway, moving on. Hey, reminder, if you are an adoptee from New York State, as of January 15, you can start receiving your original birth certificate.
Oh, that's great news. Yes.
Yep, it's happened. It's so exciting. I'm wondering what's going to happen as far as what I do. Well, so I work for a PI, but I do the genealogy work.
Is it Magnum
the
PI?
DNA work. Yes, I work for Magnum. And and if he gets people who have taken DNA tests, if they just get a name, though, sometimes he can just do it without doing any of the DNA. And so then I don't get the work.
So you're advocating for a law that is going to put you out of a job.
Basically, yes. It's actually true.
Well, I mean, it's, you want to know about the truth, and the truth shall out.
You know what? Even though these people will get their original birth certificates, there's no guarantee that
what's on it is real.
Yes.
Or true. Yes.
Yeah. It's a 50-50 thing. I've seen just straight out lies.
Right.
And I've seen other things that have little hints, and others that are.
So in other words, you still maybe want to verify it with that name, with the DNA, like to try to cross-reference somehow.
Right. And it's funny because sometimes the PI that I work with, even though there's DNA, he thinks he can solve it because there is a name.
Right.
But he tries to use the DNA, and then it all gets confusing because he is thinking about the name and not the DNA. And so then I have to go in and fix it.
I understand. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, so maybe your job is just going to change a little bit.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's fine. There are enough people that need their answers that still don't have access to their birth certificates.
See?
Yeah. I'm not worried. Hey, let's talk about something from the trenches.
Oh, okay.
I'm digging a trench.
I wish you wouldn't do that in my living room, but okay.
I know, I'm sorry.
I might trip.
Dirt in the carpet. So never say never, guys. A few months ago, I think I told you about a case where I found I had a client whose mother was said to be Polish and the father was said to be Polish and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, very quickly I found out who her mother was. I figured out who her mother was. But at the same time, even though there was less DNA, I figured out that her parents are now married and have other children. So she has full siblings and her parents are together.
Oh, wow. But they gave up a child for adoption before
when they were very young.
Yes.
They were very young and were in school and, So I opted to call this biological mother, and she shut me down immediately and said she didn't know what I was talking about. I was sure I was right, however, so I wrote her a letter with a letter from the client and pictures because she looks just like her siblings.
Oh, my gosh.
And never heard from them. So I had to tell my client, sometimes this happens,
Right.
And, I can't force people to respond.
Not. Yeah.
So, right before Christmas, I get a phone call, and it's the husband of the mother.
Oh, wow. So the father of this woman.
The father, who I believe is the father.
Yes.
And I actually said, are you her father? And he said, I think so. And I said, well, I can tell you are. If you think you are, you are.
Yeah.
because there's enough proof in the DNA that it's probably
So
you.
what did he say when he called?
He said that they have been taking a lot of time to process it, and it's all kind of turned their world upside down.
I bet.
But he wanted me to know, and he is actually coming to Los Angeles. He said, can I meet with you? And I said, are you coming to L.A.? And he said, as a matter of fact, I am.
Is your client in L.A.?
No.
Okay.
but he knew he's done enough research to know where I am.
Right.
So he is coming to LA, and we are going to meet.
Oh, wow.
Which makes I'm happy to do.
Yeah.
It does make me a little nervous.
Sure.
Because I'm not sure what to expect. But I think it'll be fine. He seems to be we'll go to a public place.
Well,
I mean, he's a very, unless he wants to like serve me with a lawsuit or something, which is not a thing.
if he's coming out to see you and meet with you, I'm sure that he wants just to know more,
He said something about wanting to know my part in this.
Okay.
So
I get it.
Yeah, do you?
Someone,
Okay.
Yeah, someone reaches out that you've never heard of. They're not a family member, and they're just.
I do explain all of that in the letter.
I know, but still,
okay.
like,
Sure.
who is this? Is this her best friend?
Right.
Who is this person?
Okay.
Can I trust this person?
Right.
I get it.
Yes.
Again, because it's somebody reaching out from the past with a secret that only they knew,
Yeah.
that they thought, right?
Yeah.
That they had hidden.
Yes.
And then a complete stranger that has nothing to do with it. Like they don't have any other motive.
Right, which is interesting because some adoptees they want to do the contacting themselves, and the people who are being contacted would rather the adoptee contact them than a stranger, which I get. It's interesting because the company that I work for, that I already spoke about, Birth Parent Finder, is their policy is for us to always reach out first, or their policy is for them to, I guess, for if whoever has the case,
Right.
In my case, though, I give the option of the client if they feel more comfortable reaching out themselves.
Right.
And there are times when I think it would be better if they reached out themselves.
Well, I'm interested to hear how this meeting goes.
I am
when is
too.
he coming? Like soon or?
He said in January. He
Okay.
didn't say specifically.
Well, you'll have to let us know how it goes.
Yeah. Oh, of course I will.
Yeah.
Right.
Ooh, good story, Julie.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
a good trench. I'll forgive you for digging
Thanks.
that trench in my
Thank
living room.
you very much. So, speaking of the company that I work for, guys, I have an announcement.
Ooh, okay.
I will be attending Roots Tech this year in Salt Lake City.
I'm going to assume that's a trading.
It's a very large genealogy
conference?
convention or conference, yes. And I will be there representing Birth Parent Finder, who is the company that I occasionally work for.
Yes.
And I was asked to do that.
Great.
Because I'm very good.
No, that sounds
very good with people.
I think that sounds exciting.
Yeah, I'm anxious because, as you know, I'm slightly agoraphobic.
Yeah.
But you know what? If you know me, guys, if you're going to be there, come and talk to me.
Right.
Because I feel less agoraphobic or anxious if I know people around me. So, guys, it's the end of February in Salt Lake City. I think it's like 4 days long. Yeah.
I think it sounds great.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. And maybe I'll do some little interviews on the floor.
Oh, I would love to hear that.
Yeah,
That's good
that might be
stuff
fun.
for the podcast.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
So that's my announcement. I have other announcements too, but we'll get to those at another date. Let's take a break.
Thank you for listening to CutOff Jeans with Julie Dixon Jackson and Richard Castle. You can support us by going to patreon.com/CutOff Jeans podcast. Now, back to the program.
We're back, and it's story time.
Yes, it's been far too long since I've heard any stories from you, Julie.
Yes, we all need some story action. This is Sherri Bale, listener Sherri Bale, and I love this story so very much, and I think you will too. So let's listen to the first part, and we'll see you on the other side. Hey guys, I have on the line Sherri Bale to tell her story. Welcome to the show, Sherri.
Thank you very much.
All right, so Sherri, you have a terrific story. Well, you have an amazing story to tell us, and we would love to hear it. So how about you start at the beginning and talk us through it?
Okay. So, yeah, I guess my story is a kind of a twist on some of the others.
Always.
So I was born in 1955 in a small city in western Massachusetts that was, at the time, a good 4-hour drive from Boston, which was the major city that was near us. And Boston had, real hospitals and things like that, and they trained physicians, and there were a lot of medical schools there. But my little town had none of that, and we were kind of out in the sticks a little bit. Mm-hmm. Although it was a city. So you kind of take that into account when you hear the story.
Okay.
To figure out why this sort of happened.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was born in 1955. My parents had been married for 11 years and had no children. And then, boom, me, and never another one after that. And a miracle, my parents,
if you will.
Yeah, I was kind of a miraculous birth.
Sure.
And I don't remember hearing too much chatter about that when I was a kid. And I never really asked a lot of questions about why it took them so long to get around to having me.
Did you ever ask about siblings, or if that was a possibility?
Oh, yes. I demanded siblings.
Oh, sure.
And, I said I did not like being an only child. I felt like a real odd person in my family anyway, because I'm one of those kids who never felt they fit. Mm-hmm. You hear this story all the time.
Mm-hmm. You're talking to one too.
Yeah, I mean it's really strange looking back.
Yeah.
But even then, I mean, I felt I didn't fit. It's not just in retrospect. And when I was about maybe 10 or 8, I can't remember exactly when, but I was pretty young and pretty obnoxious about it. I said to my mother, I think I was adopted, and I want to see my birth certificate. And I made her go to City Hall and get my birth certificate.
Wow.
Which she showed me, and there it said that I belonged to them, and it was okay. Well, there's not much I can do about this now.
Right.
I did demand siblings. I never got siblings. My mother supposedly had a hysterectomy when I was 4, so she would have been 34.
Okay.
For whatever reason, and that was the reason that I never had any siblings, supposedly, after I was born.
That would do it.
So, yeah, it would. And I think that was true.
Yeah.
But, at this point, I question everything.
Sure.
So who knows?
Yeah.
And like I said, I felt like I didn't quite fit ever. I was a very different kind of person than my parents. My parents were smart enough, but they were not educated. They didn't have a lot of opportunities. My mother never finished high school. My dad supposedly finished high school, but there was always some question as to whether it was him or his twin brother who had actually finished high school.
Oh, only one of them graduated?
It's unclear.
Okay.
And
maybe they just took turns going to class.
They did.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, so that was, my dad did the math, and his brother, the identical twins, you would have thought they had, more things in common educationally. But my uncle supposedly went to the English classes and that stuff, and my dad went to the math classes. I don't know.
That's hilarious. So they both graduated as a single person. So they're each half.
I never saw anything to evidence that either of them graduated, to be honest. But
okay.
The war came around, and my dad signed up before he was supposedly eligible to go, and those whole stories.
Oh, I know all the stories.
His brother was killed when he was 21, I think.
In the war?
In the war. Yeah, I think he would have been 21.
Sad.
And then my dad had 2 older sisters who never had children, so I was the only kid on that side of the family.
Wow.
And so anyway, from a very young age, I became really interested in science and medicine. I mean, I was really little, and I used to dissect everything that came my way. And interestingly, my family doctor he was pretty tight with our family, and he really encouraged this interest in medicine and gave me all kinds of stuff, books on how to dissect a frog, and all kinds of medical kinds of things. I remember my absolute most favorite book when I was about 11 or 12 years old was the story of the old physicians, all the history of the first physicians. And he gave me that book, and I read that thing inside out and upside down.
Was he like the one doctor in town that everybody went to? Or was it not that small?
No.
Oh, okay.
And the town wasn't that small.
Right.
We were about 160,000.
Okay. I thought you were going to say 160. I'm like, that's small.
No, that's real small. Yeah. It was a small industrial town.
Gotcha.
So it's a small industrial city.
Sure.
He was our family doctor, and I think he actually he delivered me. I'm almost sure he delivered me.
Okay.
Because there was, my mother used to tell a story about how she was in labor, and she called him and said, can I wait a while? I'm watching a movie. I want to see the end of the movie. And he said, well, I'll meet you there in an hour or something.
Wow. Okay.
Goofy story like that.
Yeah.
But, that was back in the days when doctors made house calls. And so he was at our house a lot. And I actually have photographs. Once I figured this whole thing out, I went digging because I knew I had pictures. And I have pictures of him at our house before I was born. I have a picture of him and me playing checkers when I was 6 at our kitchen table.
Wow.
And anyway, he was 27 years older than my mom. He was 6 years older than my grandmother who lived with us, and he was very close to the family. And his wife had the same last name as my dad.
Oh, okay.
But nobody apparently ever figured out if they were related. And my dad's family came from New York, and his wife's family came from Boston, and they were very upper class and snooty. And my dad's family was bunch of hat makers and and I've never been able to make the connection either, and I don't think they were related.
Is it a very common last name?
No, the last name, this you probably shouldn't use, but the last name it really is not a common name.
Okay. Have you ever actually tried to figure it out yourself?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I cannot find any connection. In fact, his wife is like this disappearing person. There is nothing out there.
Oh, wow.
I found their wedding announcement. That's the only thing.
Wow.
So,
okay. And did they have kids?
I knew when I was a child even that he had a son, and I also knew his son was adopted. So his son, calculating back now, I know was 19 years older than me. His son was adopted. They didn't have any other children. And I remember so clearly him standing in our kitchen, all these memories that come back once you realize they have a meaning,
Yeah.
Saying to my mother, I just don't understand that kid. I just don't get it.
Huh.
and
funny.
Now, talking to his widow, because I have made contact with her, she said, he was so different from that family, and they never quite got him. It was just so interesting.
Huh.
But yeah, so he had this adopted son and no other children. And so that was that background. And when I went to college in 1972, and in 1973, he became ill, and my mother called me and asked me to come home because the doctor wanted to see me. I called him Uncle my entire life. He was called Uncle Bernard to me. He said, she said, Uncle Bernard wants to see you. And I said, why? And she said, well, he's not well and he wants to see you. And I said, okay, fine. So I came home and I saw him, and a couple months later, he passed away, and I came home for the funeral. And I remember actually meeting his son at the Shiva, at the Jewish thing that goes on for days and days after someone dies. So I went to Shiva, and I did meet his son there. That was kind of the end of everything.
Okay.
So, all right. So I went off to college, and then I went to graduate school, and then I got a PhD in genetics.
Oh, really?
And, yes. So
interesting.
Yeah. So then just another one of these ironic things. And my mom died when I was 28, so she was out of the picture. My dad, we were quite close actually. And at some point, my dad told me that he was donating platelets. He'd go to the Red Cross and do platelet donations.
Yeah.
And he got this award for the 16 gallons of platelets or something he donated.
For the most platelets.
Yeah. So he showed me his little book, and they used to write down your HLA type and stuff and then document every time you gave your sample. And they used HLA types because that's what they matched on when they were doing donations. Your donor had to match the person who was donating.
So what is an HLA type, just for my clarification?
HLA types are genes that make a protein that sits on your blood cells.
Okay.
And basically is a signature for those cells. So when you do a blood donation and you're getting platelets or white blood cells where these things sit on top, you have to have one that won't be rejected.
I see.
So it defines your type for your white blood cells.
Is it different than blood type, I'm assuming?
It is a type. It's a type of blood type.
Okay.
So
all right.
It's not ABO, it's not RH, but it's a type. It's a kind. I wouldn't call it a blood type, but the protein that it makes sits on blood cells.
Okay. And are there many varieties of it, or are there just a
lots
few?
And lots and lots and lots and lots.
Okay.
Lots and lots and lots.
Good to know.
It's one of the most diverse types of proteins in your body.
Oh, okay.
So I started donating platelets because I thought it was cool that my dad was, and I got a little book. And one day I said, oh, let me see your little book. And I took out his little book and my little book. And I said, son of a bitch, we don't share a single type. Not one. And I said, so this makes me wonder if all those feelings of never belonging were real.
Yeah, I would think so.
This was the late 1980s.
Okay.
And so I took my HLA types. I wrote his and wrote mine down. I never said a word to him. And I went back to work, and I went to one of the HLA specialists in my team, and I said, take a look at this and tell me if, my dad was typed years ago and I was just typed recently. Could you tell me if the nomenclature has changed over time so that, in fact, we actually share something here?
Yeah.
And she took it, and then a couple days later, she came back and she said, no, there's nothing shared between these two people. And I said, okay, thank you.
Did she know that it was you and your dad?
Yes.
Okay.
She was a very, very good friend of mine, actually.
Okay.
And we just kind of looked at each other, and that was the end of it. I mean, it was not something anyone was going to talk about. This is 1980s,
yeah,
in the late 80s.
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay. Yeah. So I knew. So that, I always felt there was something not right, and this was the information that fit that. So my dad wasn't my dad, but there was nothing I was going to do about it. I love my dad.
Mm-hmm.
It was just him and me in the world, right? My mom was gone. There were no siblings. So fine. So in 2014, my dad passed away, and it was just a couple years after that, I finally said, okay, this ancestry business, this 23andMe business, I think I'm going to break down and do this. I think they have enough data out there to make this interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to do this and look at my ethnicity and see, am I really, I was supposed to be 3/4 Jewish. I was supposed to be half Jewish because my dad was 100% Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
And I was supposed to be a 1/4 Jewish from my mom and a 1/4 Irish from my mom.
Okay.
And so I did... I think I did Ancestry first, and it came back that I was 3/4 Jewish and 1/4 Irish. And I said,
okay.
Maybe I was wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe, my friend was wrong when she looked at the HLA types. I don't know.
Or maybe the lab wrote the types down wrong or something. That would be unfortunate, but yeah.
Some kind of change, but I don't know. Good. Sure. I don't have to think about that for a little while.
Oh, okay. So at that point, did you even have any idea about the relative matching?
No, not really. I haven't thought about it yet.
Okay.
But then, people started talking about that stuff, and I'm a geneticist, so I'm thinking, let me see who all these people are who keep coming up in this list. And, all these people, nobody's very close. I had one cousin on my mother's side who comes up, and he came up exactly what he should be, which was a third cousin. I said, oh, there's my cousin Mark. But there are all these other people, and we knew nothing of my mother's Irish side at all because he had abandoned the family when she was a kid. Well, how am I going to even know who's who here? I couldn't figure any of this out. So I went to a couple of my cousins, and I said, hey, would you guys mind testing on Ancestry? I'll pay for the kids. And so I went to 4, I guess it was, of my maternal cousins from my mother's side that I knew really well. It was my mother's side, the Jewish side. And I went to my one living paternal cousin from my dad's side who I was fairly close with, but, we really didn't see all that many of the cousins on my dad's side, so I didn't have a lot of people to select from. So
but he was close enough to ask him to take a test, though.
Yeah,
you didn't feel
so
worried about that.
Her, and I said, hey, would you mind doing this? I'm trying to figure out who's the mother's side and who's the father's side so I can figure out this mess. And she said, oh, I'm really sorry, but I don't trust the government at all.
Oh,
and
Lord.
I can't
Okay.
have my DNA up.
Okay, we're back. Thank you, Sherri, for the first part of that interview.
I recognized her New England accent right away because that's where I'm from.
How could you not?
I know. It's like listening to someone from home.
Yeah. Yeah. She is so much fun, and I can't wait for you guys to hear the second half of that interview.
Next week.
Yep.
In the meanwhile, I am Richard Castle, and you can follow me on the Twitter at Castle Songs, or you can go to my website, that newly designed website, richardcastle.com.
Fancy?
Yes. And find out what I do, with my musicals and writing and piano performing and all that fun stuff when I'm not here behind the microphone.
It's a veritable reservoir of information about your work. I am Julie Dixon Jackson. You can find me at the Twitter at Jules Jackson with 2 O's. Find the podcast on the Twitter at CutOff Gene Pods. Find our Facebook group, CutOff Gene's Podcast. Answer a question. Don't just say, if I ask, which I will, why would you like to join the can you tell me why you would like to join the podcast? Don't respond with yes. That's a little hint. Also, you can email me at julesjackson@cutoffgenes.com.
And, as we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, we did just start the Patreon page, so please consider going over to patreon.com.
Check it out.
/CutOff Genes Podcast. We would really appreciate your support, and that is the truth.
That is the truth. And you know what else is the truth?
What?
The truth is in your genes.